I'm your host, Matthew, and welcome to the journey of becoming a millionaire. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a very important topic, and that is why is it so hard for people to get out of debt? Like, I at first thought that, man, look, if I just go and I pay this off, and do what I can, I'm going to get out of debt. And what I discovered is that it will take you longer to get out of debt if you do not have a strategic plan. So in this video today, we're going to be talking about one, why is it so hard for people to get out of debt? And then number two, I'm going to be showing you a method that I have started to use that has been able to help me get out of debt a little bit faster. So make sure you go ahead, grab a pen and a notepad and get ready to take notes. And let me go ahead and go over to the whiteboard. Why is it so hard for people to get out of debt? And really it comes down to one specific word, and that is interest. The reason why it's so hard for people to get out of debt is because of the interest that is on the debt. Now, we have person A and we have person B, and I'm going to give you an example of this. So let's say that, and I actually looked at this on one of my statements, and I saw that my interest rate was actually 24%. All right, so we're going to give each of these people 24% interest rate, and they currently have a balance of $1,000. Now, when it comes to actually paying off your credit card debt, it is so important to one, make sure that you're making your payments on time, and number two, make sure that you are paying more than the minimum balance. Now, why is it that I say that? So let's say, for instance, we have that the minimum payment required on $1,000 balance, or on $1,000 balance, is going to be $30. So each one of them has $30 minimum that they have to pay every month. Now, person number A chooses, hey, I'm just going to pay the $30. Person number B says, you know what? I'm actually going to pay $60. So the payment here is $60, and then the payment over here is actually going to be the $30. Now, why does that make a difference? Well, whenever the billing cycle actually comes up, and for many people, the billing cycle may be 21 days, 28 days, or 30 days. It just depends on what company you're with. What will happen is at the end of your billing cycle, if you have this $1,000 balance like we do here, that means that 24% of that will be actually added to the credit card statement. So if you have 24% that's going to be added to this 1,000, that's going to basically be, I believe, $24. So that's going to be $24 that's going to be added to your balance. So instead of having a balance of $1,000, you're actually going to have this new balance. So the new balance is going to actually equal $1,024. And that's going to be the same thing over here. You have $1,024. Now, if you pay this $30 on this payment, person number A says, look, I'm just going to pay the $30. Well, if they end up paying the $30, then what would end up happening is, so let's say minus 30, then they end up having, let's see, this is 6, so that should be $996. Or I take that back, my bad. It's not 996. We got do this, and so that's going to be 4, and then that's 0. This is 10. That's 9, 1, 9. Actually, I was right. It is $994. All right. So $994 is basically what your balance is going to end up being. Now over here, when you end up going and you say, look, I'm going to minus 60. So they're going to minus 60. So instead of it actually being $994 that they're actually going to end up paying, they are going to have $980. I believe that's, so if I just subtract 30 from this, then that would be 4. let's do this math. 994 minus 30 would be 64. So that'll be 964. All right, so you end up having a balance of $964. And basically, if you continue to pay that, what'll happen is if you're paying $30 every month, they're going to add $24 to this balance, and then you're basically slowly going to be paying that down. Now, when you end up slowly paying this down because you're barely paying or you're paying the minimum, you keep only really paying about $6 to $10 every single month. Whereas over here, you are actually significantly dropping the balance down more and more every time that you pay a lot more than what the actual balance is. So this is the reason why it ends up taking a long time, because of the fact that at 24% interest rate and you're just paying the minimum, you're going to be paying that. That's why it says sometimes it takes 10, 15, even 20 years to pay it off if you're just paying the minimum. Now, another thing that people don't actually think about is, well, what happens if something happens and you miss a payment? Well, the company will actually go and they'll say, okay, if you have a late payment, then we're going to add $60 as a late payment. So when they add that $60 as a late payment, not only do you have the 24% interest, but you also have this $60, and it just depends on really what it is. Sometimes it might actually be like $30. So you end up having another $30 added onto that, and then you're still making the minimum payment. That's going to cause you to get even further and further behind. And this is why it is so hard for people to get out of debt. Now, going back to what I said earlier, how is it that you can actually get out of debt faster? Potentially. And this is something that I actually started using, and I learned about it. And once I saw the method, I was like, that actually seems pretty good. So let me show you what it is called. And that is called the debt snowball. Now, you might be thinking, Matthew, the debt snowball doesn't make sense. So if you have ever seen a cartoon or even you've seen movies, you notice that when they go skiing and they have a lot of snow, basically, you might have a little small ball that goes and it starts rolling, but the further that it goes down the mountain or down the hill, it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's basically what ends up happening with this debt snowball. Let's say that you have 3 payments or 3 credit cards. And let's say that you have one that is $2,000. Then let's say you have another one that's $1,000. And then let's say you have another one that is $1,500. Well, what ends up happening, each one of these is probably going to have a different interest rate. So because each one of these has a different interest rate and a different payment, this one might be 22%. This one might be 18%. And then this one right here might be 26%. It just all depends on what company you're with and what their regulations are. But let's just say that for the payments, the minimum payment on this one is, let's say, $45 per month. The minimum payment for here is $30 per month. And let's say that the minimum payment for this one is $40 per month. So what would end up happening is, for this debt snowball to work, what you want to do is you want to find the one that has either the highest interest rate or the lowest payment. And you want to make sure that you're at least paying the minimum payment on all 3 of these. So don't just stop paying it. But then what you're going to do is you're going to put more money towards the smallest one. And why is that? Because if you put more money towards the smallest one, as we looked in the previous example, if you put more money towards this, it's going to get paid off a lot faster. But what ends up happening is, let's say instead of you paying the $30, let's say that you're like, you know what, I'm going to pay $90 a month. Then I'm going to pay this $40, and then I'm going to pay this $45. Well, eventually when this gets paid off, now you have basically technically freed up this $90. But instead of just saving the $90, what you can do is you can now take this $90 and you can put it towards this 40. So now you have $90 plus the 40, which means that you're going to end up having $150. And now that you have $150 that you're putting towards this, and you're still making the minimum payment for the 2,000, now you're actually going to be able to get out of debt a little bit quicker. And then once you end up having this canceled out, now you say, okay, well, I got this 150 that I was putting towards the 1,500. Now I'm gonna take this 150 and I'm gonna put it up here towards the 45. And now I have $195 that I'm putting towards my debt, and I'm gonna end up getting out of debt a lot faster. And that's basically how the debt snowball works. So if you are looking to get out of debt a lot quicker, the first step is you need to identify what is the amount of debt that you have. The next thing is you need to see what the interest rates are. Then you need to see what are the minimum payments. Once you see what the minimum payments are, at the very minimum, make the minimum payments. Once you make the minimum payments, then you can start to add more money towards a specific one that has the lowest payment, and then just continue to add and compound so you can eventually just have most of your money going to one payment. So I hope that this video was helpful for you. If so, make sure that you like this, and I will catch you in the next video.